This is literally like the
guild,
shittiest version of 4th grade all over again.
Yeah, because it's just going to be a guild picking all of its guildmates every single time.
That's fucking killing me. It's fucking killing me. And I don't even do PvP, but the whole premise is fucked up.
Yeah, I think they need to add weapons. They need to add more skills, make combat more interesting. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Streaming Synergy. Today I have my co-host, the Blade Marshall, with me. How are you doing today?
Heyo!
And topic of today, starting off, is going to be some New World. We got our hands on the open beta this time, or beta. We'll just say that. I don't think it's open necessarily.
Preview?
To everybody.
I think they're calling it preview.
Preview. So
yeah,
not even a beta. And we'll talk a little bit about that, and then later we're going to talk about some streaming stuff, like content creators that we look up to, things that we appreciate in other people's streams, and so on. But yeah, starting off, we both got a chance to play New World, put a decent amount of time into it, and well, the excitement started off really intense. I think we were like counting the days to this preview. And we got to hold a bunch of other people, got a group together, all ready for it on the same server. And hour after hour into it, the hype started to dwindle. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Did you feel the same way?
I have been stoked about this game for quite a while. And not that I am acknowledging that I have played the NDA enforced beta previously, because that would be a violation of the NDA. I have not. Don't ban my account, please, Amazon. But getting into the preview that just launched on the, what was it, the 27th, I think.
I think so.
25th, 27th, one of those, whatever. Just a few days ago.
Yeah, 25th actually. Yeah, 25th.
So the game is not where I would like it to be. Now, that said, there's a lot of things that they've done well. There's a lot of things that they've done where the foundation of things is awesome. But the hype is dwindling is absolutely fair. That's an absolutely fair assessment for me as well. Yeah.
I mean, the game is beautiful. I think the graphics were astounding. It's the first thing, everybody notices when they get into the game. They create a character, they see what's going on. The landscape looks great. The enemies that they do have in the game all look good. And the combat at first felt fresh. It had that live action, intensity to it. And I'd say for the first, couple hours, it gets you through. You're excited for it all.
Yeah.
But then after you're doing it for hours and hours and hours, you start to feel how lackluster it is, how simplistic it is for an MMO. I mean, I can't even think of another MMO off the top of my head that has as basic of a combat system. The only thing I can hope for is, they have more plans in the works for that, like more weapons, more combos, skills, whatever it might be. Because right now, it's really limited. I think 90% of what we're doing is left mouse button, pause, left mouse button.
Okay, all right. So you're omitting the right mouse button, which is the block button, which is nearly fucking useless in this game.
Yeah.
Not only have I noticed that so I'm a PvE centric player. In 99% of the games I play, I very, very, very rarely step out of the PvE realm and jump into PvP. And that said, from all of my experience with New World so far, which is 20 to 40 something hours in collection, the combat flow is the same 2 or 3 animations regardless of the weapon you're equipped and working with. It is impossible to effectively block the withered in any way, shape, or form, because no matter what version of the zombie withered monster you're fighting, they can daisy chain block breaking skills, followed by, you know, raffle stomp you into the floor skill, followed by what the fuck just killed me, I'm 8 levels higher than this mob, why am I dead?
Yep.
And I feel like there's a massive disconnect between my experience as an MMO player and the combat experience that New World is presenting right now. And this could very well be that I'm not an action adventure, you know, player, like games like Dark Souls or where it's that real active combat mechanism that's the linchpin to the way that game plays. It could just be that I suck. That's absolutely in the realm of possibility here. But there's no real mechanic so far that we've seen in the game, either through tutorial or through game guide stuff inside of the actual, you know, game hints. Let's try this again. Hints, tips, and tricks. Woo, words are hard. That kind of like really gives you a good foray into here's how to really master combat in New World. It's more like a, hey, go kill 8 of these bad guys and collect 5 of the chests in that area, and then head back to town, bro.
Yeah,
like that's it. Like,
yeah. Basically, the cover for or the blanket summary for the things that are problematic in the combat is, one, there's a very limited amount of weapon selection to begin with.
Yeah.
There's the sword and shield, there's the hatchet, two-handed hammer, light staff, fire staff,
bow and musket.
And half of them play very similar to each other. Like all the range kind of feels similar, and then all the melee has a little bit of fluctuation, but there isn't enough variety to what they do. So with those limited selected weapons, you're also very limited in how many skills you even have to choose from. Right. You have 3 skills per weapon, not including your basic left click attack and your right click block and so on. Three
skills that you can slot to that weapon. Yeah.
And with the minimal skill tree that you progressively unlock as you use those weapons, sometimes you might not even have all 3 of those skill slots filled up with a skill. Mm-hmm. So that's even more like of a limitation to it. But then when you have those skills, the problem comes with global cooldown. You have 3 weapon slots, but there's no convenience to swapping between the different weapons, because if you use one skill on one weapon, it goes on cooldown, which is a pretty decent cooldown. I think it's like 10 to 20 seconds between them. And if you use it on one weapon, you swap to another one, it's still on cooldown, even though you didn't use that weapon's ability. And then what makes it worse is enemy types that have a tendency to interrupt you or knock you down or what have you. They'll throw those abilities, they'll interrupt you and throw that ability on cooldown. So that it's even more of a nuisance. With a limited combat style, the few things you can do don't always play out right. Yeah,
and I think that like the dual pistol wielding zombie pirate thing, there's a couple of zones, you know, in mid 15 to 22 range or whatever, where they have a couple of skills. One of them is they rush you with 2 very heavy attacks, and if you get hit by either one of those attacks, you've immediately got some sort of a corruption or a poison that hits you and debuffs you. On top of that, they then do an immediate backflip, and then they shoot you, and then they hit you with another powerful combo right out the gate. So after dying repeatedly to the same mob over and over and over again, I finally started getting the hang of fighting that one mob model. And then I accidentally pulled 3 of them at the same time, and I'm 4 levels higher than what these mobs I'm fighting are. And it was one hit, and I got stun locked and instantly murdered. Like I was dead and down in a heartbeat. Yep. So it feels very frustrating. It feels very unrewarding and very punishing as a player with the way that combat feels right now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm laying the flag out on the field. I could just fucking suck at the game. That's absolutely in the realm of possibility here. I can't say that like I'm some amazing top tier player. I'm not an amazing top tier player, but
yeah, because I'll admit a lot of the weapons and the combat style does feed into the strategic, like you can get better at it, you know, when it's time your dodge, your block, or whatever. But it's tough to do because if you, for example, throw on a hatchet like most people eventually tend to do, you can just left click your way through enemies without a problem. But it's drastically different if you were to do like a two-handed hammer. You're a lot slower, sluggish, you're interrupted all the time. But when you can just swap to a hatchet and hack your way through blindly, it takes away that, like, do you want to focus on being really good with a two-handed hammer? Or do you want to be the guy who just left clicks their way through all of those enemies with a hatchet? And that's what a lot of people tend to do. And then if you're using the light staff or the fire staff, the musket or the bow, you have to be crazy precise with your shots.
You 99% of the shots you take, you are going to fucking miss. If he is standing right in front of you, you're going to miss that shot too, just so you know.
And if another player steps in front of you, you're not going to make the shot either.
Yeah. And like so you've mentioned the life staff a couple of times, and I got to make a comment about this because I typically, so like in WoW and ESO, I typically play melee damage or tank roles. Like that's my bread and butter. That's my preferred play style. There, from what I can tell, is very little of the trinity of classes, even though they exist in a combat mechanism and skill tree for those weapons. But healing is
useless, basically.
I mean, your AoE heal, even when you've spec'd into intelligence and your mana regen, your AoE heal is going to heal other players for about 48 to 60 hit points. You start with 1,000 hit points. So immediately out the gate, we're talking a 0.5% heal, which tells me that the developers didn't really run the math, at least in my opinion. Like, healing should be healing. Like, I should be able to save my buddies and party members' lives. Yep. And there was a time where kind of grinding out some mobs in one specific area, and all of us had a life staff in our off slot, and then all of us had either a sword and board or a hatchet or a hammer as our main weapon. And with 3 or 4 of us healing each other, we were still dying left and right. So it's like the numbers for healing just, like, they don't make any sense. It's completely useless. Chugging a potion actually does way more healing. Oh, but you've got an amazing point about the chugging the potions. What were you saying the other day about oh shit, I'm gonna die, so I better drink a potion? Oh shit, look, I died while drinking a potion.
yeah, it takes too long when you're trying to drink a potion. Like, you stand there and it takes like 2 or 3 solid seconds while the mob is right on you. And then when you do heal, even if let's just say they didn't hit you and you manage to get a heal out of it, you're usually in a situation where they're just going to pummel you immediately as soon as you finish that anyway. So it's like one of those tough situations. And then with the healing staff, like you were saying too, it heals so little. And to compound that, you use your AoE heal, you barely do anything.
Right.
Then it's on cooldown, so you're even doing
25-second cooldown. Yeah.
You're doing less after that. And with the main attack, with the healing and stuff like that, you have to be precise with things, and it gets convoluted with other people jumping in front of each other during melee combat. It's just a total mess.
I think that the melee hitboxes are actually pretty well done right now. I think it's the ranged hitboxes are extraordinarily unforgiving for an MMO. Like, it feels like I have to be like top tier esports league Genji main to hit a mob with my fire staff or my life staff. And even then, when I hit it,
minimal damage.
it's gonna tickle him, and not slow him down in any way, shape, or form.
Yep. And yeah, so it's totally boring to watch, like Pa was saying. So it makes it difficult to stream, and I think a lot of people have the hype like we had just for other people. I think it's not diminishing for other people as quickly, maybe, but there's a lot of people that really love the game, and I think it's just because everyone wants a new MMO. They want something new to get their hands on, and they'll settle for just about anything at this point.
Yeah. There's a lot of promise in New World, and we've talked about this throughout this past week, where it feels like the game it's really not ready. So when they made the announcement that they were delaying to spring of 2021, like, I know I was pissed. I was like, no, God, no, please come here, let me play you.
Yeah, me too.
And after playing the preview so far these past few days, I'm kind of like, oh, thank God they delayed it to spring of 2021, because this shit is not ready. Like, there's a lot of promise in this game. But like, okay, so let's talk about numbers real quick. So I'm a big crafting altaholic MMO player. Like, I love crafting. If the crafting mechanism in a game is addictive, or I think it's rewarding, it's the slot machine theory, right? I'm more than happy to keep plumping quarters into that machine just to get the little ding, ding, ding on my crafting skill sets. So New World's crafting mechanism, I think, is brilliant. I love the idea that you are not only a self-sufficient crafter for literally every craft skill that they have available, trade skill, craft skill that's in the game, but I really believe that Amazon does not have any mathematicians or actuaries or anyone who's passed third grade math working on their development team, because at this point, from my best guess estimate, for, let's take smithing as the example. So this is weapon smithing, armor smithing, smelting precious metal, not precious metals, but usable metal like iron. So from what I can gather, and there's a pun there, you need about 10,000 pieces of iron ore. That is smelted down to, it's 4 to every 1. So that's 2,500 iron ingots. If you make 2,500 iron ingots, you might have enough trade skill points to learn the next tier, which is steel. That is an insane amount of grinding on one trade skill. So I think that the math is all skewed. And for me, I kind of wish we would have recorded some of the gameplay on this so I could use this as an example, or the visual, but there's really no progress cue when you're crafting. Like, most of the time when I'm crafting during the preview phase right now, I craft a bunch of shit, and then I have to exit the screen, go into my character profile, and look where my trade skills are at. Oh, okay, I gained 2 levels by crafting 400 pieces of weaved cloth. I'm like, wait, I only got 2 levels? I did 400 fucking pieces of cloth. What the shit? Like, there's no queue system that says, hey, if you craft this many, you're going to get this much experience, and that'll take you to that level for the expertise, or and so on and so forth. So it's confusing, and there's no marker or indicator that says, hey, you're going to get this much experience after you've completed doing that. I mean, how many swords and boots did you craft trying to rank up your weapon smithing and your armor smithing? Like, weren't you saying you had you made 20 swords, and you're like, I got 3 levels? Yeah,
if that. And like, the issue you run into with it too is, one, you have to craft a lot to make progress. You take that into account. Now, to go get those materials, there's been off and on struggles. I don't know how much you experienced it, but like, looking for very key items, let's say hemp and iron ore. Sometimes you stumble upon one of those back to back, and you're like, oh, I got a decent little bit. And then later you could go a few hours without finding another node or what have you. And then with certain materials, you get over encumbered extremely fast. So that's a lot of back and forth to the town to store those or craft them or whatever you're doing. and then back out to see if you get lucky and find whatever you're looking for. And the problem is too, on the map, you can locate where resources like should be, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be there. They can be. So there's a lot of times where I was looking in, what is it, like the Highlands or something like that, is where you can find iron ore, and I'm running around and just there's nothing. Oh, and then I see one and another player takes it, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go fuck myself then. That's awesome.
Yeah. Let me sorry to interject,
no,
but there was something I accidentally learned, which is after certain levels of like mining and harvesting and logging, it'll actually pop up on your compass. Yeah, a little tracker for certain types of materials, like turkeys and wild hares after you hit a certain level in skinning. Things like that. Like there's iron ore starts to show up on your compass bar after mining rank 30. And I think my mining rank right now is up to like 70, and I'm still not skilled enough to smelt steel. I'm still working on the very first fucking tier of crafting materials.
Yep. And then the problem is when you're finally able to craft it, you'll probably have already found whatever you would craft in higher tiers or higher stats. When I crafted those swords, I crafted so many. Not a single one of them was a higher level than the one I was already running around with.
Right.
So it's like, not only is it rough to follow through with all the crafting, the odds of getting something that's actually really, really good are really, really low. It's a mess. You'll never be at a point where you're crafting stuff for your level and it's actually benefiting you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, I didn't dive into any of the PvP stuff.
Well, I did.
Okay, how was your PvP experience? Like, what did you think of the PvP? Because I know that you did some fair amount of PvP in World of Warcraft, and you've dabbled with it in ESO as well.
Yeah.
What did you think of the New World stuff?
Well, at first it was really appealing because the way they have it set up, where they have like the factions against each other, and they even have like faction quests that give you really decent experience and faction tokens and everything like that. So it's like extremely tempting to do, but the problem is if you don't have a group, or if you're not the asshole who's 10 to 20 levels higher than everybody else, they're extremely difficult to complete, because you pick up like the PvP quests and you have to like go to a zone, patrol it for like a minute and a half, or gather certain resources and make your way back. So on foot with no mounts in the game, you got to make it out there while you're flagged for PvP, do whatever quest you have to do there, survive the whole time, then make it all the way back to town. If you die, you fail the quest. The problem is that every single time that I set out to do this, there was a player who was like 10 or 15 levels higher than me, sitting right there waiting for people just like me. And dude, these people would chase me all the way back to town. They were relentless. And I can only imagine there's other times where I'm not flagged, but you can still see who's flagged. I'd be running around and you'd see like 5 or 6 of a faction flagged, running around in a little group.
And I saw often, but I never flagged myself for PvP.
Yeah, it becomes a mess because just like with fighting the enemies, the combat system is not forgiving. If let's say you're a character who focused on like a 2-handed hammer and like a healing staff, for example, that's one of the first things I went with. A person with a bow or a musket are going to just pick you off, lay waste to you. Or they get up in your face with a hatchet, and if you block, that's like a guaranteed you lose. They just tear through the block, you're now stunned, and you're dead. And so it's a total mess. And when it takes you, 10, 15 minutes to even make it to the location you needed to go on foot, just to either die or complete it and then run that amount of time back, it's just stressful all around. Like, granted, I'll say the big thing to the game is if you had a group, 4 or 5 people or even more, hell, I think that would make all of the content that we're talking about way better, because you'd have people backing you up on everything. You'd clear through quests faster. PvP wouldn't be unbearable. But if you don't have that, you're just suffering.
And I think that's for me, that's a problem, because I don't always group up when I'm playing an MMO. I frequently, and more often than not, I'm soloing through questing. I'm soloing through crafting. I'm soloing through exploration. And
which I feel the average person is used to doing, like just for the questing anyway.
Like, I know that like most of us that have played games like ESO and WoW, like there's a lot of autopiloting going on when we're doing quests. But I do want to talk about New World quests, because
really
that actually, all
so
one
good.
of them, one of them are really, really good. So this is my big beef with the questing with New World right now. It is two kinds of quests. No, three. I'll give them three. So the first one is go here and talk to so and so. That's number one. Number two is one of the starter quests when you go to your first township hamlet thing, and it's go grab a bunch of wood, go get some stone, go get some hides, and then come back to the hamlet and help us build up more shit in town.
Yeah. And those are more those ones are more just like the repeatable town things, dude. They're not even technical like quest lines, sadly.
Correct. it's like dailies for the WoW folks and the ESO folks. It's kind of like a daily quest, repeatable daily. So the third one, which is the one that consists of 99% of all the quests I've seen so far in the PvE world, since I haven't even tried any of the PvP stuff, is go to this location, kill X number of enemies, and loot Y number of items from chests. And that's it. That is literally it.
Quest.
So after you've completed your go to the one town and talk to the guy, and you've completed your, hey, go get crafting materials and bring them back to town, every other quest is the exact same thing. Go kill 8 monsters, loot 5 chests. Go kill 15 monsters, loot 8 chests. Go kill 30 monsters and loot 10 chests. There is literally nothing else.
Yeah. Oh,
than
wait,
that
actually, there's one more quest I see pop up every now and then.
Okay.
But it's few and far between, but it suffers the same problem. It's go collect one item from a chest, and every single time you do it, you remember that place? It's like the pillar. We're running around in a square killing the skeletons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a quest for that. And you grab the one item out of the chest on the back side of it. But I've gotten that quest 4 or 5 times. It's exactly the same like layout, but it's just there's different pillars in different locations, but it's exactly the same. But that one's just sprinkled very rarely in between the go here, kill X, loot X quest.
Right.
So it's not a saving grace. I see it and I go, it's just as monotonous.
But you're going to have to go kill any number of monsters to get to said chest, and then kill the monsters as they spawn on your way out from said chest. So, yeah, okay. But still, like, at least Jesus. And this, I don't want this to be, like, only negative about New World, because there is stuff that I do really like and I really enjoyed. But come on, vanilla WoW Northshire had more variety of quests, 16 fucking years ago than what we're seeing with New World right now. And I'm baffled by that. Did they literally hire an intern to make the quests, and it's literally just copy paste, change a value, copy paste, change a value?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not 10 monsters, it's now 15 monsters. I'm like, at least there's no escort quests. And thank fucking God there aren't any escort quests so far. Now, I'm not sure about PvP, because it sounds like that's an ordeal in and of itself.
Yeah,
but
it feels like an escort, because you have
it's
that.
just so
you can fail at any moment. The failure, I think, of the PvP thing is the thing that really just makes that one rough.
So okay, we've been pretty critical. All right, we've been pretty critical of the game so far. What's something that you've really loved about the game? What's the reason you kept coming back after all of the hours of frustration?
I think it's the blend of all the crafting, the world, and I'm a person who just wants to progress at a game anyway. I'm in it for those numbers to climb, whether it's my gear score, my level, trade skill level, whatever it is. I like going in for those, being able to do new content. Like I'm always striving for, in a typical MMO, what's the next dungeon I can push for, and so on. And with New World, it was that mystery of, okay, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting better gear, I'm getting new skills. What's next? And that's where I hit the wall of,
all right, hold on. I want to keep the positive here.
Okay.
I do want to keep the positive.
Yeah.
So the layout of the land feels genuinely like I'm in the 1700s conquistador style exploration, and I do feel like I'm contributing to the erection of a township, and the my crafting skills are helping other people in that little zone, in that little area, and it feels a little bit more like this is the wilderness and we are struggling to survive. And that is a very well done presentation, both in the landscape of it, the way that, and I don't even know the actual word for it, but the corruption that rises from the actual island itself and consumes the NPCs, the monsters, and twists and messes them up. Like, that is actually really, really well done. And I haven't gotten far enough in the game where any of that real narration is really taking hold and gripping me tightly. I'm about to start complaining again, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, on that note, with those things, I do like the 17th century feel. There's actually been quite a few times where I got like new armor or a new helmet or something like that, and I was like, ooh, like that style is really, really cool. Or the idea of, I have a musket and I can craft ammunition for it, which is not easy, but regardless, the idea of it being there and having that feel is really, really cool. I really like, I know a lot of other games have these types of systems, but like with the gathering and the crafting, I really like cutting down a tree and watching the entire tree actually collapse, or even another player's tree collapse in front of me. It has that realism to it. Or when you kill something and you skin it, it feels more, methodical, like you're doing this, as opposed to it being, just another routine thing like in World of Warcraft or something. Those things feel good. And the theme, I like the gritty wilderness. And I made it to the northern parts too, where it starts to get wintry. Okay. And I'll say, because in the beginning, you're running around like the forest type locations. So like Everfall and Windsward, and there was like another town. Those three I was like triangling between, and they all felt kind of like the same wilderness. But it's okay because it's a wilderness, you're out in the woods. That's like real shit, But then it was such a nice change when I finally made it up north, and I was like, whoa, it's like mountainous. It's all white. There's, winter like wolves and panthers or tigers or whatever they are, the mountain lions. It had like a nice feel to finally make it to like a location like that. Right. So I feel like scenery-wise and setting, they nailed it. Like, it feels really, really good. The biggest thing,
I love that I have to run 4.5 kilometers every single time I get a new quest. That's the best.
Yeah, I really wish they put like some kind of mount system. Or on that note, one thing, I don't know how heavily you messed with it, but the fast travel system is very limiting. Like,
yes,
you can only fast travel if you have the Azoth.
Yeah.
You can only do that.
Expensive.
Yeah, but also you can only do that if you're at another town or outpost. You can't just do it in the wild. The only time you can do something anywhere is you can recall to the one town that you've
checked into the end. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you do that, you're gated from doing that again for an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
and depending on how far away you are to where you're trying to travel, it changes the cost of Azoth. So like if you try to go more than 4.5 or 5 kilometers, I think it starts costing like 300 or 400 Azoth to make that fast travel. And I'm like, I think I've seen maybe 350 Azoth in my entire New World career so far. Like, yeah,
I've gotten like 600 or
the
700.
Numbers, man. It's the numbers. The numbers are just wrong. They're off.
Like, I feel like if you're not going to have a mount system, you've got to have a better way to help people get around. And gating them with all of these things, hard to come by resources, you're not in the right location at the right time, or you have to wait a while before you can get there. It like, I mean, I get how some people like the immersion of like, dude, like, when are you going to do that in real life? If you're out wandering in the forest, this gives you that, you know, trudging around type of feeling. But when you're doing quest after quest of, okay, go over here to this farm,
right,
kill X of these, loot this many chests, now travel all the way to the other side, do the same exact quest at a farm with a different name, killing the same enemies, that's when it's like, okay, you know, I got 20 more minutes of this before I complete the next one, and then turn it in and go for the next one.
Did you die and resurrect in town? 20 minutes? That's amazingly fast. 20 minutes would be, that's like speed leveling at that point.
It actually becomes a temptation because when you die, you can respawn at your nearest campsite or the nearest settlement. So like, if you can't fast travel from where you are, kill yourself. Like, you'll get there faster.
Fight a monster that's 8 levels lower than you. It'll kill you in 3 hits anyway.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of little hiccups. The other thing I can say is they delayed the game for a reason, and I really, really hope it's specifically to clean up these things.
Yeah.
Because if you take all these things into account with this game, it becomes a problem because there are no dungeons, there are no raids. The PvP 50 versus 50 is town versus town where you have to log in at the right time for it to happen. And you also have to be lucky enough to be selected as the one of the 50, which odds are it's not going to happen.
I heard about this, that you have to basically sign up to participate in the 50v50 combat for town ownership, or, you know, whatever, the plot ownership or whatever. It is literally, it's the stereotype. We are the computer nerds. We were the kids picked on in school. We are the kids who got picked last for all the sports. Are you fucking kidding me? There's a chance that we're going to get picked last or not at all again in a digital world? Fuck you. Whoever made that call at Amazon Game Studios needs to be kicked in the nuts repeatedly for that decision. That makes zero fucking sense. If you're gonna do 50v50, cool, go 50v50, but open up an alternative reality where there's like 2 or 3 iterations of 50v50 that's going on that, you know, could somehow the numbers affect the outcome of the total, you know, war. But give everybody an actual shot to play, like, and don't make it so that whoever starts the war is the one that decides who they pull from the bench. This is literally like the shittiest version of 4th grade all over again.
Yeah, because it's just going to be a guild picking all of its guildmates every single time.
That's fucking killing me. It's fucking killing me. And I don't even do PvP, but the whole premise is fucked up.
Yeah, I think they need to add weapons. They need to add more skills, make combat more interesting. They need to add
animations. They need more combat animations.
Yeah, because like the light staff to a fire staff, like they look the same, just different colors.
Yep.
And if you're a caster, if you want to cast magic, why the hell do you want to be limited to just a fire staff or a healing staff? Like, there is no
and
magic
where's our
beyond that.
debuffs? Like, if all the mobs
why can't
can
we
debuff
poison?
you, why can't we poison? Why can't we cause bleeding? Dude, I've got a huge fucking mallet made out of cast iron that I'm swinging around like a 70s porn star. Yeah, I'm going to do some fucking debuffs, but that doesn't exist right now. Like,
Yep.
what? Come on, guys.
And the only thing they have that pulls in the I'll say the feeling of like a dungeon or raid / end game is the corruption breaches, which I got to test out. And I also watched a lot of streams where they were full on like going at it for hours. And it's dramatic. It's a animation overload of multiple characters just going bullshit crazy. But the whole event, it's like standing in a 100 by 100 spot and just fighting enemies that are coming out of this area and then beating a boss and then rinse and repeat over and over and over. Everybody's just trying to tag a monster to get experience from it, which is a stupid system. Healing somebody with a healing staff should be giving you some kind of experience.
Yes, 100%.
You should not have to actually tag an enemy with something for it to give you any experience at all. That's just ridiculous. So there's no end game stuff, which they were aware of. They specifically mentioned.
They called that out. Yeah, they called that out.
So like overall, I mean, with all the negativity, I do still hope that they're going to add a bunch of stuff to it and make it, better, because they went from a initial idea was to basically be 90% PvP to more of a traditional MMO type of feel. So I feel like they still have a major transition into that they're trying to make. And hopefully
I'm sorry. I'm going to rewind back to the PvP thing. I meant to ask this question earlier. So like when you've got like if you're level 15 or whatever, and you're kicking off your little faction PvP errand for it's really an errand. It's not even a fucking quest. Or if you're getting harassed by someone who's like level 25 or level 35 and you get killed over and over and over again, you fail your quest. I'm assuming there's like some sort of a penalty system, right? Like
no,
with the whole
no punishment.
I'm sorry. One more time. This is my trick ear. This is the good ear.
Yeah.
Did you say there's no penalty system for
there's
PvP
no
griefing?
Penalty at all.
Cool.
A higher level character can just sit there and kill you. Granted, I don't know if they get a real big benefit from farming people other than that self-satisfaction of being a dick. But stopping you, there's no penalty from them doing it in the first place. And that's a big slap in the face. There should be major repercussions, like for killing people that are significantly lower than you a level.
Okay. Captain Obvious is reporting for duty, but if this game started as a PvP centric game, you'd think that someone would have thought of some kind of a penalty mechanism at some point in time during the game development's life cycle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, from the get-go.
Like
the thing that's disappointing is they were focusing so much on PvP, and I understand the transition from a PvP to a PvE focused game is still going on, but the PvP that is there, which was their main focus, is also not that good. So it worries me in the long run what they're going to come up with, because putting all their eggs into PvP still didn't make that feel utterly amazing at this point anyway. So we could just
okay. So I'll throw out a hypothetical. Final Fantasy 14 was not a good game when it launched. It was not what it should have been. It failed to deliver on so many fundamental promises, especially with the success that Final Fantasy 11 already had. When they went back to the drawing board and said, you know what, we fucked up, we're going to fix the game and make it right, and A Realm Reborn came out, there really was a real redemption there. Like, this is the game that we should have made the first time around. We're really sorry. We're doing it right this time. So my hope right now is that Amazon Game Studio pulls their heads out of their proverbial grade school bully assholes and figures out what they need to fix and what they need to add. Worst case scenario, if that does work and they figure it out, they listen to the feedback, they fix and add enough that's going to get my interest right on launch day, or the next round of previews, or the next rounds of betas, or whatever the case is. I would love to see iterative improvements on multiple systems in the game at each stage. Second case scenario, slightly worse here, is they pull an ARR, a Final Fantasy 14, where they basically have a new world, because the new world's now the old world. Like they could redeem themselves after taking a very public and very embarrassing hit. The reality is it could just turn to shit.
It could. The thing is, where it's made by Amazon Game Studios, they have the potential for a lot of backing monetarily and everything.
Oh yeah.
So they can turn this around. And what I think they need to do is, one, they need to listen to the community, but also the community, like us, we really need to voice all of these concerns. Now's the time to do that, because the game's not technically out yet. It's a preview. Right. So I feel like everybody needs to be critical, and then Amazon needs to focus on those critical points and start implementing fixes and adding things and everything like that. Because if they don't, sadly enough, there's already a very promising game with Ashes of Creation that's in the works. So it's one of those, or you know what, not even considering Ashes of Creation, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, Elder Scrolls Online, Black Desert Online, all of these games severely trump everything New World is bringing to the table right now, aside from New World just being new.
It feels like New World's development team hired a lot of art folks and not enough game mechanic folks.
Yep. They need to have somebody who's either fully experienced in a top brand MMO, or people who have invested that kind of time. It feels like this is made by people that aren't playing their own game for hours at a time.
Right.
Because if they were, they'd see these problems.
I swear to God, I really do hope that anybody who's participating in the preview right now, any potential betas or additional previews, don't just complain about the things that are broken. Offer solutions, offer suggestions in the feedback. And from a person who works in the IT world, when we get feedback from our quality control team or our clients who are doing beta testing for the new releases of things that we're trying to work on and push out the door, anytime you complain that something's broken, okay, well, how is it broken? How do you think it could be better? Those two components is really going to be what game development studios, software development studios take to heart and say, okay, here's the problem. Here's a suggested path forward. Is this doable? Does it make sense? Does it solve the problem? They don't have to agree, but if enough people are saying this is a problem, they have to start turning around and paying attention to different ways of trying to present that solution. Whether it's the solution you suggested, they ignore it entirely, or they take it to heart and they say, that's a brilliant fucking idea. Arcblight, let's go make that a reality.
Yeah. So speaking of suggestions, that's one thing I want to make a focus segment right here, is like, if you could step in and make improvements, think about what you'd want to do for that. And I'll start off with it by saying, one, I think they need more weapon variety. When I see a pirate dual wielding pistols, I like, why the fuck can't we do that? Or
where's our pistols?
Yeah. Or when you're using a sword and a shield and then you swap to a hatchet, that shield is on your back, but you're wielding a hatchet with that one hand.
Yep.
What's going on with that disconnect? Or dual wielding, I think, would be a really good idea.
Yeah. That dual wielding was a big one for me. I was genuinely shocked when I found out there is no dual wielding in the game.
Yeah. And I think with that, they could easily like borrow, let's say, from like Guild Wars. if you use a sword in one hand and then a shield in your
yeah,
other
yeah.
hand, you get 2 shield skills. Or if you swap that shield to a hatchet, you get 2 hatchet skills. Or
Right.
if we happen to get our hands on a pistol, which we totally should, throw that into the mix. That gives us
Yeah.
more than 3 skills right there and adds a lot of variety on like what you could do. But either way, they need more weapons and they need more skills.
Yes.
3 and global cooldown. See, here's the thing. They could keep the global cooldown if they don't really want people jumping weapon to weapon to weapon. But we need more to do with the single weapon we're left with.
Yes. Yeah. And that cycles right back into more weapon variety, skill variety of the weapons. Make it a little bit more dynamic and usable. That makes total sense.
Yeah, because like me personally, I might be the minority on this or whatever, but with Elder Scrolls Online, like very specifically, but I'm pretty sure Guild Wars 2 had the same vein. I could be wrong. There was a lot of your main rotation would involve weapon swapping.
Mm-hmm.
You swap over to the bow, you drop your dots, then you swap over to your melee weapon. I'm not a fan of that.
Nope.
So personally, keep the global cooldown, but give us much more skill variety with what we're left with, and I'd be super, super cool with that. But either way, like, if they don't do that, then they need to get rid of the global cooldowns. It has to be one or the other, because we're way too severely limited with what we have so far. Another thing I would suggest is we need like dungeons or raids or like world events, like kind of like fates from Final Fantasy. We need more, something's going on over here, let's go get invested in that for a little while, or something to catch our attention that actually has, like a means to an end with it. You get there and you're like, okay, I have mechanics that I have to do here.
Right.
I think something like that. And then mounts. Give me mounts, or rework the fast travel system to be a little more bearable. But I think that's pretty much the gist of my recommendations. What about you?
So questing, oh my fucking Lord and Azeroth. Come on, guys. You're gonna need more variety than literally 3 types of quest. And the first 2 types you see twice in the entire game so far. You need variety. You need to change up the quest. I'm not saying introduce escort quests. Please don't introduce escort quests. No one likes escort quests. But you need variety. You really do need variety. And throw some voice acting in or something, something to pull the attention of the player, to create that interest and investment in what the story arc needs to be, or what you're trying to tell us as what's happening in the world. Yeah, like, in the very beginning, do you remember they show the cinematic where like that Marauder guy gets that box, and then the ship crashes, and then later you have to fight that guy, and they do like the cinematic, like he gets corrupted, and then you beat him, and it's like a boss battle, and then you take that box from him. Having that be the start, that's what I thought, questing was going to be like. Like, you're going to be doing more stuff that's dramatic like that. I think they should have taken that, and they need to build. That's how the storytelling should be. Yeah. Yeah, I think I really do think questing needs to be sincerely and gravely looked at. And really far better rounded out than what it currently is. I think the second thing that they need to do, I'm going to focus on the crafting piece of this, but it really does boil down to the math. The math behind the game is fucking worthless. It is so grindy in even the damage numbers. If you threw all of your level up trait points into strength, you might get over 300 as far as damage per sword
depending
swing.
On the weapon.
Yeah, you might, and that's at level 20. Crafting is suffering from the same thing. There's a lot of the core resources are not clearly defined, and they're not clearly trained or taught to the player. And then the amount of resources that you have to harvest and then carry your overburdened ass back to the nearest town and then craft all of it and realize you've only gained a level and a half to rinse and repeat. Like that, the numbers are all messed up in the game right now, from damage number, health numbers, crafting materials required to even, make a single piece of armor or a single weapon. It's so punishing to the player. I think the last really big thing, we haven't actually talked about this, but this was something that I mentioned to you a few days ago when I was playing right after you finished your last stream of New World, was the map is amazing. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful map. I think that the compass bar is fine. It's helpful. But I think there needs to be a mini map. And I think that the waypoint system that they use right now is confusing. And there's like, when you're aiming, let's say I turn my character to due south because in 1.2 kilometers, that's where my quest marker is at. There's no indication that I'm walking towards that quest, like what ESO and Skyrim has done, where if you're pointing in the compass direction of where you're headed and that's where the quest is at, it'll tell you this is the quest name, it's over this way, this is the vicinity you're heading. So if you've got 2 or 3 quests in your log, I'm constantly opening up my whole map going, wait, where the fuck am I? Where am I going?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you have to figure out which one you're following. When you grab like new quests, I don't know if it's just me, like I'm not paying attention enough or something, but it always seems to cycle around my quest, which ones it's being focused on. Mm-hmm. So there's like a lot of times where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the one I was focusing on. I grab this one and then I go to continue focusing on that one. And I end up following a totally different quest line for some reason. Totally. And then it gets to a point where I don't trust myself anymore. So I'm constantly like, walk 10 feet, open my map, walk 10 feet, open my map. Yeah. Just to, double check where I am.
Wait, am I in an area where there should be iron ore? Because I don't fucking see any iron ore.
Yeah. And like basically the map system, the location stuff, it's very like Skyrim. Or honestly, it's very Elder Scrolls Online. But guess what? I download an add-on that gives me a mini map immediately. Because life is just so much easier with one.
Yeah.
Granted, I'll say with that, yes, I would like there to be a mini-map, or at the very least a much better way to figure out where I'm going. Mm-hmm. But I will admit that's also me being careless with what I'm doing. Like,
that's fair.
I could pay better attention. I don't want to, but I could.
You're trying too hard to not die from a level 7 wolf that's attacking you randomly while your level 23 character is now bleeding to death.
Yeah. And then I wish there was just a little bit more variety with locations and towns, because there's a lot of times you go from town to town and you at first glance you're like, oh, I'm in the same place. It's the same town. And then you go, oh no, wait, in this town the crafting bench is over there, and the inn is over here. But the aesthetics of those towns are the same. I've seen a few outposts that look different, but every time I've gone to them, they're vacant. I don't really know why, but they are. So I don't know what's up with those yet. Maybe just like a guild hasn't claimed it or something. I don't know. But yeah, a few things definitely, and enemy types. Like we've definitely hit on it multiple times, but to like really focus on it, they need more enemy types. They're withered. They're zombies, over and over and over and over. Whether you're putting a hat on them or, a bandana,
or giving them dual-wielding pistols, you fucking assholes.
and those dudes are fast. Those are the fastest zombies I've seen. Yeah. Like I feel like what is that game? The zombie sprinting game. I can't even think of what it is, but they're crazy. They're doing back handsprings away from me and then jumping up and doing like 5-hit combos that are kicking my ass. I'm a living person and I'm not that quick. Like, what the fuck? Daisy. No, it's not Daisy. It's that first person you like parkour up the buildings and everything. I have the game too. I just can't think of what it's called. But yeah, they're fucking crazy. But more enemy types would be more interesting. More boss type things. On that note, sometimes with the quest, you get a boss dude you have to go kill. boss type. It's just like a slightly stronger
hashtag
enemy.
Good luck finding him because
Exactly.
the mapping and pin systems are fucking broken.
Yep. There's been a few times where I've been held up just looking around for that one person, whether he's way off to the side of the location down on like a deck by the river,
Right.
or in a random house you just happen to not, check for a long time. Dying Light. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, hopefully they'll fix a lot of those things with the game. It can easily turn into a very negative thing, but what I'll say is a lot of the things they have in place just could be better. Like, they have really good foundations.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, a lot of the math turns out to be some of the biggest problems, at least with what's there. Granted, I do think there needs to be more content, but at the very least, like, get the numbers right for what's there.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
All right.